Hello and welcome to the Tech and Toast podcast. We simplify the way you buy and manage your hospitality tech. You can click through to techontoast.community where you can search our marketplace, attend our events, grab your free tech audit, and we will help you visualize your tech stack as you grow into 2024. Meanwhile, summer in Australia.
Hey, Lou, do you think we should sponsor the Tech on Toast podcast? I mean, I really like Chris and I really like what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that's a ripper idea, LP. It's a perfect fit for what we do at Red Cat.
I mean, I agree. I'm just not sure how we get our message across around like Red Cat specializing in multi-site groups, like cafe groups and fast casual groups and QSRs and all that.
Maybe we mention some of our customers like Nando's in Australia, New Zealand, the restaurants at the Aussie Open, Boost Juice International. I mean, they've got over 700 sites.
Hang on. I think that was the sponsors. This is the Tech on Toast podcast. Enjoy the show. Okay, welcome to the next episode of the Tech on Toast podcast. And this week I'm delighted to be joined by Jon Davis, CTO at Caprice Holdings. Jon, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, you are welcome, and welcome to Brewdog. Your first visit, I hear.
It's my first visit to this one. Yes, I've been to many other of their establishments.
I frequent them a lot,
but this is the first time here.
Yeah, this one you can actually get lost in, so you can spend time here and no one will ever know. Tell me a little bit about you. I mean, how long have you been doing, I suppose, a CTO role? Is this something you've been in for a while?
Yeah, so this is my 6th year. Previous to my current company, I was at a hotel group, Village Hotels.
Oh, I know the Village. I used to compete with the Village. I used to run... do you remember a Sporter?
Yeah.
So I used to work for a Sporter running fitness clubs, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Never used the gyms, obviously, but the Village were a pain in my backside.
We had a very interesting business there because obviously hotels, but a vibrant leisure business, a vibrant food and beverage business. So it's almost 3 businesses under one roof.
Which it was clever actually. They always competed on price and had good facilities as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, by the by, but yeah, I love them. And then you went from Village to Caprice?
To where I am now, yeah. So we've got 4 separate brands under one roof.
Yeah, for anyone doesn't know.
But 4 companies under one roof.
Yeah, who have you got? Because obviously some people listening in might not know.
Yeah, so we've got the Burley Clubs, which is 5 very high-end private members clubs in Mayfair.
Nice.
Bill's Restaurants, which is our high street restaurant chain. The Ivy Collection, which includes the Ivy Brasseries, cafes, the Ivy Asia, Harry's.
Don't make it easy.
Brasserie of Light. Yeah, so you have to remember all of them. Caprice Holdings, which is sort of 12 individually brands. So you've got Sexy Fish, Scott's, 34 Mayfair, Daphne's, Bacchanalia.
Yeah, I'm just tired listening to you. I feel like
it's never ending, really.
And the obvious question to you straight away is that do you have? I think I know the answer. Is there one tech stack for all?
We have standardised where we can across.
Wow,
so things like POS, booking engines, websites. Obviously, there's variations inside of those, but where we can, we have tried to standardise. Obviously, we're a pretty small team considering we've got 120 locations.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Some as far away as Miami, so...
Is that Sexy Fish you've got in Miami?
We have, yeah.
Very cool. Do they get you out there much?
I went.
Do you not just find problems to go to Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I do try, but I've been a couple of times and... I mean, what a place. I mean, the one in London is fantastic. We've just opened Manchester, actually, 2 weeks ago.
Very cool.
So it's a growing brand. But, where we can, we try to... From a support perspective, it makes it easy. Obviously, there's a cost benefit for us.
Yeah, of course.
And just best practice.
Yeah,
we can sort of try to standardise across.
And how challenging is that, I suppose? Because I presume when you arrive, how long? 6 years was it? Or 3?
I've been there just under 3 years now.
So you arrived 3 years ago. I presume... Not everything was perfect when you landed, or there was a different system, or because things evolve, right? Things change.
Absolutely. I mean, initially when I started, it was 4 very individual businesses, which had similarities across technology.
Because you were acquiring, right? Because obviously bills came.
They were brought in, and the guys had done a good job in trying to standardise across, but there wasn't really an IT team. Yeah. So it was a lot of it was outsourced, and operations that were handling
God
all
bless
that
us.
stuff, purchasing, finance. People getting involved. And I mean, the important thing for me was where they had standardised to look to see if it was working, because that's the most important thing. Obviously, it's great in theory to standardise across all these different, I mean, now vastly different businesses as well. Yeah. But does it work?
Well, and how do you, because the interesting for me, I was at Colucci's for 8 years, very similar, had 2 people, I think, in IT. I think when we got the second one, we were like, ooh, this is exciting. But we had 100 sites at that point, and it was just, how do you get feedback from the ground? Like, how do you know if what you're implementing is working on the ground?
Well, I mean, I think that spending time on sites is super important. And I think you can sometimes get a little bit, what's the word? encapsulated in head office and our opinions and what we think, and we're busy all the time, right? And everyone's stretched, and every department's the same, and you can very quickly get sort of tunnel vision. It's super important to get out there, to talk to the trainers, the GMs, get to the individual businesses, speak to the business leaders. So we've got really strong exec teams in all of the businesses. So getting their feedback as well is super important. But it's not just the day-to-day operation. Obviously, we're looking after sort of the digital infrastructure as well. So websites, booking, apps.
Yeah, you've got the keys to the castle, haven't you? Because all that data is flowing. Eventually, you probably hear the podcast. Everyone talks about this magical data that comes into one place, and the suppliers will tell you it's easy. What is that? Because obviously you've got different execs push and pulling you there. You've got marketing wanting this, you've got ops wanting that. How hard is that to manage, bringing all that data into one place from all those different brands?
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I think we did a big project last year in terms of trying to build what we called a data lake. And again, actually the easy bit is getting the data in one place. It's then the hard bit is what do people want from it?
Yeah.
And that's the part of the journey that we're going on now. Is so what do we do with the data? And that's just business information. We're literally 90% of the way through a project with building a new CRM platform.
Wow. Okay. Are you building your own? Or?
Well, we're doing it with Salesforce, but we've got a lot of connections that we've built and pulling data from lots of different sources. And how do we then take that data and make use of it? Because it's, again, I think the easy bit is building the pipes to build this great big database, and you've got 2 million people on it, but then what?
Yeah, and also because I always used to worry about how useful data was. Like when I was a director, I used to, what am I pushing down? What am I pushing down onto my people? Is it because I loved it? I love a dashboard. We all do.
Everyone does.
And I'd share it with some team, and they almost look at me blankly, going, "Like I'm spending 20 minutes here. I could be doing that." Kind of thing. So it is always a worry, isn't it? How do you guys kind of? I suppose you're probably on this journey now, but how do you kind of work out what you do push down and what you don't? Is that through the exec team or
through the exec team? Yeah, we actually today's our exec meeting. We've just had it Tuesday mornings, and then after the exec meeting, there's a big operations meeting where all the ops directors come in. And they then discuss what they need. I mean, they get business reporting from our finance team, who do a great job. But like you say, it's very difficult. I mean, I did a lot of consultancy work back in the day, and you would often see people had reams of reports, and you say, "What do you do with that report?" And they say, "Oh, I put it in that drawer."
It's just my report, man.
That's what I do. Just my report drawer over there. So it's sometimes you can have it just for the sake of having it, and that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
You can have amazing 50-page reports, but how many people get past page 3?
Yeah, it's really true. And I always think about scalability as well, like how, because you guys are obviously at scale, and you're, I presume, looking in one of the brands, two of the brands, whatever, all the brands looking to move forward again. How much in your thought is your tech stack and what you're doing with that looking down the road? Because I always used to wonder, is tech plotted alongside growth in terms of, you have a forecast or a budget that finance give you? Is tech kind of sitting alongside it these days saying, is it matching?
Yeah, I mean, we're again, it's a good time. We're going through a budgeting process at the moment, and it's super important, the strategic vision. Yeah. In terms of not where do you want to be in 6 months' time, but like 2 years' time, because, I mean, I'm sure everyone's aware that tech moves so quickly. If you've not got that vision, then you don't really know what you're working towards. It's almost doing it just for the sake of it. And we're having conversations about lots of different things at the moment in AI and automation and all the great buzzwords that you can think of. So what's it actually mean to the business? And that's where you've got to bring it back to not just what we think is right, but actually what does the customer want? What do the team want that are actually running the restaurant? And how does that fit in with our overall business strategy? And if you're not looking at that, then, I mean, you can do great projects, but they're almost... one after the
almost
other,
irrelevant as well, because you don't. Do you ever land them? And one of the things I wanted to ask you was about landing tech because I don't know how much you rely on off the shelf SaaS, I suppose, compared to, like, as you said, you're building bespoke projects with people like Salesforce, but landing tech, in my experience, has always been a bit of an issue. You always get, like, I'd say 65% out of your product when you've actually put it in. How do you get over that, and how much? Because you're not involved all the way through that, right? You can only kind of do the due diligence bit and buy it, I presume, and make sure it fits. But how do you make sure that's kind of rolling out properly across the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think where I see people struggle, where we struggle as well, it's not just everyone else, is the bit where you go into business as usual. So you've got a great project, we have our project manager working on it, everyone's invested, and then you almost get to day one, what happens now? Yeah. And I think that's where the landing of it's super important. It's how does it integrate into BAU? How do you get it from, like, we've had a great project phase, it all looks amazing, we've got these unreal ROIs that everyone's hanging their hats on, and then day 2, everyone said, oh, let's move on to the next thing.
And how much are the suppliers involved in that? Because obviously you're working hand in hand, I presume, in that project phase with your current supplier, who's obviously values you as a big customer. How much are they involved after that, or how much do you expect them to be involved after that?
Well, I always like them to be involved as much as possible.
Yeah.
I think that when you're making the decisions on what suppliers you should use, what vendors, actually I think the relationship is probably the most important thing. The people you're working with, do they understand your business? Do they understand hospitality? I think when you've got that partnership, it's much easier. Like you asked about off the shelf. I mean, I'm a true believer in if you can buy something that's 100% off the shelf, do it.
Yeah.
Because we're not, I mean, in some senses, we're trying to innovate, but we're not reinventing the wheel.
But you're not, and that's the thing I always think with operators, you're not a tech company. You don't want developers at your, I mean, do you want developers?
No. I mean, I always say to people, they say, oh, you're in IT. Well, I'm not really, I'm in hospitality.
Yeah.
And that's our business. And although I'm working technology in hospitality is
it's just my job, man. I just have to look after it.
Exactly, yeah. But my background is hospitality. I've always been in it for 20 plus years. That's the bit I care about. And if we can use technology to make that better, brilliant. That's what I'm there for.
And do you think, because your role, I suppose, the CTO role, isn't as common as you would think, right? I mean, if you,
no, I mean,
I'm sure all the suppliers listening and thinking, we search for every day on LinkedIn. There's only 2 of them. Yeah. But it's rare. Do you think that will change over the next few years?
I think over the last sort of 5 years, you see more and more roles coming up in businesses like ours, hotel businesses, where the CTO is becoming more prominent. And I think, whereas previously it was like an IT director role, and that was more traditional IT,
like
so
infrastructure,
networks,
wasn't it?
infrastructure, Wi-Fi, and that was pretty much what they concentrated on.
They hated their lives, those people.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, my team and me, we still do that.
Yeah.
But I think you've got sort of to have that.
It's a bit more exciting though, isn't it?
I remember
back in the day, literally, it was the Wi-Fi chat. It's like Wi-Fi's broken.
Yeah. I forgot my password for my laptop.
That's not enough information.
Yeah.
I'm in London, you're in Cardiff, doesn't make sense. So, and I think that change, obviously tech's driving that change. And what do you think generally about what's on offer out there at the moment? Because obviously everything can be automated pretty much now, and there's some really exciting products in guest experience, and some of the POS. I mean, POS is really motoring forward at the moment, and they're now doing payments. I don't know who you're with, so I won't quiz you too much. But what do you think about what's on offer at the moment in terms of tech generally?
I think that it's come on leaps and bounds. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this 20 years, and what we get now, I mean, you never even used to think of when we first started. And POS is a great example. I mean, I actually used to work for a POS company.
Oh, did you?
And it was, I was on the other side of the fence for a few years, and I mean, it's come on so much in terms of just the installation time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at companies, we were talking about Miami earlier. Obviously, we had to go a little bit of a different route because of different country and payment processors. And I went out there. We selected a POS vendor. I mean, it was 6 days. That was with kitchen display screens. Sexy Fish is quite an intricate menu.
Yeah.
Payment integrations were done.
Oh God, that used to be 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
it really was.
Everyone was trained. Everyone was up and running. I mean, I'd planned to be there for 2 weeks. After the first week, I was like, oh, maybe it's.
I'll just go and be on the beach, guys, if you want me.
Yeah, exactly. Bring the family out, but I mean, it has, and I think that's the biggest change you've seen in terms of time to market and time to get a project live. I think that it's difficult in hospitality because people are very set in their ways, and it's in different.
We
places.
are odd, aren't we?
Yeah,
it is an odd industry.
Yeah,
I mean, I love it to bits, obviously, but I change, and I wrote a blog this morning. I put a blog out about change management versus is it the tech problem or are we the problem type thing? And I think half the time we might be the problem.
Yeah,
I hate to say that on a podcast, but it might be true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, you're in an environment where it's about people, right? Yep. Hospitality is about people. And then it's about the interactions with people, and technology is never going to replace that. No. And that has to be your ultimate goal in terms of making sure those interactions are the best they can be.
Yeah.
And tech's sort of a secondary part of that. But where I always sort of try to equate it back to, and where I think technology's done wonders in hospitality, is actually can save you time. And that's what we can give back to operators and people that work on the floor.
Because they need it.
I mean, if I can send you home at 11 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock in the morning, that's a win. And
there was never enough time. I used to joke about it, saying there's never enough time in the day. Meet myself coming backwards, whatever it was. Back-to-backs was the old shift. Oh my God, I used to hate it.
AFDs.
But I used to have a podcast called the AFD. But it's true, and that stuff, I don't think unless you've worked in it,
Yeah.
it's very hard to understand how physically hard that is to do, like not and emotionally and all that kind of stuff. But it is hard, and I think if you can take any of that pain away, like the really pointless stuff, like cashing out, for instance. I mean, cashing out used to be hours, and now.
I'm from an operations background, so they're the bits that I look at, and I think we can fix that
Now, like overnight,
today.
yeah, and that's what you need, because I think that's, and I always joke saying that you guys will bring in a supplier, but the waiters will kick you back out, because they're the ones that are using the tech every day. Do you get? That's what I was saying about feedback. You hear that quite quickly, I presume, through the exec meetings as it comes up.
For sure. I mean, we have open channels to all of our team at head office, so anyone can drop me an email, give me a call, drop me a WhatsApp. I mean, it can come from any channel, but and they're not shy in doing it either. So
yeah, no, of course they're not.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that you've opened the channel is good, right?
Absolutely. And the great thing is we've got a lot of sites, and where our teams are great is they will send you that feedback straight away, even if they've found an issue somewhere.
Yeah.
We've got so much tech infrastructure that actually sometimes it's hard pinpointing where something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
They'll be straight onto you, oh, we've found this. What do you think? Is it a problem or is it just a bug? And we can get on that straight away. And having that feedback all the time is super important.
And I love I always joke say as well that operators, if they had development skills, they'd probably just try and fix it themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If I gave them back office access, they'd be doing it.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
No. And you mentioned before about relationships, actually, and products are so feature rich. There's so much, every every company that joins the marketplace, I kind of understand the product and try and understand what they do. And but you mentioned relationship versus product. Does it really balance out in the fact that if I've got a great relationship with this person and they might not have a feature that the next supplier has, does that maintain you in that place? Because I think it's interesting for them to hear that actually that sometimes it's not all about being feature rich unless it's something you desperately
obviously
need.
It'll massively depend on what we're doing.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say that relationship is the most important for me because we move at such a fast pace. I mean, over the past 2 years, we've probably opened 20 sites. I need to be able to trust the relationships we've got with vendors and know that I can chuck things at them that sometimes might be a bit out of left field and they will help.
Yeah.
And that is really important. And I think that, like I said, it's not often you get a huge IT systems team in hospitality environments. So being able to lean on those people is really, really important. So, I mean, the first things I look at is what's their support like? What's their customer feedback? Where's your reference visit? Product's obviously super important. So if we look at product, we kick the tires on it, we make sure we're looking at exactly what it does and does it do what it says on the tin, all of that stuff. But again, I think the relationship is massive.
Yeah, and I think that in hospitality is probably elevated compared to other industries. I imagine, again, because you said it's a people business and it's so emotive all the time. And it brings me nicely to the question that everybody wants to ask about integrations.
Everyone's favourite subject.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I think it's getting better. I don't know. You could probably tell me. Do you feel like that problem is becoming, because you're not all in one, you've got best in class, I presume, in different areas. Are you finding it easier to manage those pathways, the integrations?
Oh, much easier now, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that historically, if you looked at the bigger players in the marketplace, hotels, restaurants, if PMS systems, booking engines, all of those used to be a very close shop, right? But you had to rely on them. So you look at open table, people like that, that had a marketplace that you wanted to have access to. So you almost took the rough with the smooth, right? This is great, but that's probably not as great. But everyone's opened up now. So everyone has API access, open APIs that we can have access to, full documentation. I mean, it is night and day from what it used to be like. I mean, I think that still in hospitality, people are not taking advantage of that, though. And they're not using it. And you find it with some quite surprising vendors where you say, no, we're going to use your API. And they'll be like, oh, you'll be the first ones to do that.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, well, maybe we won't use it. And is there a reason for that?
And I always say that because you would be an enterprise business to your suppliers. But there's how many of you in your team? In the
5 in total at the moment. Yeah.
So, and you're 100 and, I can't remember, 120?
120.
Yeah. So it's weird. And I always say these smaller, the mid-market brands can have enterprise tech and they can have access to all that. And when we do these free surveys where people do their tech audit and they send it in to us, and I'm dealing with commercial directors running tech, operations managers running tech in smaller businesses, and then that kind of thing. And they are totally at capacity. They just, they kind of lost the way to do it. And they kind of head down the all-in-one route. But is that, I think you're probably better going for the best in class all the time, but I don't know. I have the luxury of not running a business.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think if you can get best in class, do it. Like I said, I think that traditionally where you're looking at enterprise technology, you would have access to things that other people wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
I think that it's there for everyone to use, but it's also having the expertise to know where it is and use it, and the time, right?
Well, even you were saying you've got that data that now you've got all that data.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah.
You know, ring Vic Searle, a data hawk, she'll help you. She'd love that. But I think that's probably the same in any size business, right? Even because the smaller guys will find a little bit of data overwhelming compared to obviously the amount,
absolutely.
the amount
It's all
you've
relative,
got.
right, in terms of what you're doing, how you're doing it. But I mean, it definitely is out there. Like I said, POS companies, we've done a lot of integrations with POS, especially we've got private members clubs. So those integrations are much more complex in terms of what we're doing with the restaurant stuff. But super open, easy to integrate. I mean, and we've done it to like big platforms like Salesforce, and that used to be a almost impossible task,
Yes,
and we've managed to get there.
And the other thing is about, I suppose, integration is Wi-Fi. That I had a chap from Redcat, Lawrence from Redcat, and he was talking about Australia versus the UK and Wi-Fi, and he's saying how shocking our connectivity is here. He said we don't even need it in the Australia; it's all 5G. But is that a problem you fixed? Do you think in your world, or is it still something that?
I mean, we offer Wi-Fi. And
does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being diplomatic here. We offer Wi-Fi, and it's a decent service.
Yeah.
But we were very. We looked at the data initially.
Yeah.
How many people are actually connecting to it? Because we looked at doing let's do an infrastructure project. Let's make the Wi-Fi better. And then we looked at the data, and it was like, well, actually, how many people are actually connecting to it?
And is it not many? As in relatively?
A small percentage.
Really?
And it's a nice feature to have. Obviously, for us, we can have a splash page. We can put offers on there.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have it. But in terms of people that connect, like I say, in most of our environments, 5G's there.
Yeah,
and it's better.
It feels
it's always going to be better.
Yeah, it doesn't break. Yeah. It feels like something that will not disappear, but will be a marketing tool more than anything, right?
Correct. I mean, we need networks in the restaurants because we've got business information that comes in. We need connectivity for payments. But actually, where probably...
I should have said customer Wi-Fi, sorry.
Yeah, customer Wi-Fi. But like 5, 6, 7 years ago, where people are actually talking about it. I mean, obviously, I come from a hotel background. It's super important there.
Yeah, we're all logging in there.
Yeah, everyone's working. You've got your laptops, your iPads. You want to stream Netflix. That makes a lot of sense to invest because it's a differentiator in the market. If I'm staying for a night or 2 nights, I absolutely want great Wi-Fi, and I would probably pick one hotel over another. Whereas I'm not going
it's
to
just different, isn't it,
the
in this
Ivy for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I'm going there because the food's great, the service is amazing, the restaurant looks fantastic.
And you want to spend time with whoever you're with.
Exactly, yeah. And we have to make that distinction. So is our money better spent somewhere else? Investing in the websites, the guest journey. We've just launched an app. All of that stuff that we're bringing together.
Someone told me apps are the devil. Is this true?
It's a labour of love. You have to be super committed to.
What's the app for? Is it customer facing?
Yeah, customer facing for the Ivy collection. So it's a loyalty app. So we looked at we've been talking about it for a couple of years, and it was always part of the journey in terms of rewarding loyal customers. So we launched 2 months ago. Got over 50,000 users now, which is a good start.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
There's a tick
So we're
in your
looking
box
to
there.
double that by the end of the year. And then look at next year how we can then build that in terms of a real sort of strong loyalty proposition.
I think it's the one word that I hear more of, and loyalty seems to be everybody seems to be on that journey, trying to get to that journey or understanding what they need to get there. Any advice?
I mean, it's difficult. When we looked at it, we did a big sort of survey to about 20,000 of our customers a couple of years back and said, what do you want from us in terms of digital infrastructure?
Yeah.
Because that's what matters. And what we very quickly realised is we're not anymore, whereas before you'd be competing with a restaurant next door.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're competing with Netflix and Deliveroo and people just not doing anything.
Yeah.
So really the tagline for us in all of our digital infrastructure was how can we make it easier to book with us and do anything else?
Yeah, how do we get them out?
Yeah, how do we just make, actually, that's a good idea to go to the Ivy for my
That's
birthday.
so interesting the way you say that, because that is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
The competitors are no longer... I mean, Colleges used to be Jamie's. Jamie's were our nemesis.
Yeah, and you can look out your door and you can see,
them.
it's
They're
that
all
one,
there.
it's that one. And there's still a competition there in terms of for when people are out. But we're now having to go back a step to say, how do we get them out?
Yeah, and I was joking with the last guest about my friend's pumpkin patch. He's been running a pumpkin patch in Cardiff for the last 2 weeks. He's made an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
And that people are loving that. I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, but people actually go and pick a pumpkin out of a dirty field, and then buy a burger, have a beer, and hang out there.
We've got about 6 of them in my back garden. The kids have been like 6 times. Yeah,
I tell you what, mate, if you stick a food truck in there, you'll be doing well. I'll tell you his numbers afterwards.
Yeah.
He's done really well. But yeah, I think that experiential side of hospitality is really like earthy and growing, and actually people want to do more. And I think that can be still in the regular, on the high street.
Yeah.
But it has to be, you have to be innovative, don't you?
For sure, 100%. Yeah.
And I suppose one thing we didn't cover was data security. It's the most boring subject ever, and even saying it to you looks sad.
Yeah.
How much is that in your? Is it getting harder to manage that side of things? Because obviously you've got all kinds of data breaches, GDPR, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, when you go back to being a people business, it's actually your weakest line of defence of your people, and that's the bit that's very difficult to manage.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have turnover of staff, and that's the part that is always going to be difficult. I think where it's become easier is it's become second nature for a lot of people, a lot of our vendors as well. Whereas before you're having conversations, they're like, oh, it's
Don't know
just
if we can do that.
part of the conversation now, and it's become just natural to say, right, we want to see your data protection policies, you want to see this, you want to see that, and they're there for you to see. Obviously, we have our own. We've done a lot of work on them. We've done a lot of work on security and data security, but it's still educating the people that are on the front line. That's the most important thing. And we've done a load of work on that over the past 2 years, and we'll continue to do that because that's an ever-evolving beast.
Someone told me that I was listening to radio on the way to London the other day, and I think the radio said 82% of crimes at the moment are fraudulent, and most.
I can imagine.
And I think out that 82%, 62% are online.
Yeah, I mean, we've got network monitoring tools and all of the boring stuff I won't go into in too much detail. But I mean, when you look at the stats, I mean, we're getting attacked probably 1,200 times a week.
Really?
Not successfully, but people that are trying to get in here, there, everywhere. And
I say that to my missus. I feel like I get attacked 1,200 times a week.
Yeah, then you go home and get it more. Yeah,
That's amazing. I didn't realise that high.
yeah, across all of our.
And what? Just trying to literally grab data.
Yeah,
Or
trying
corrupt
to
data.
force their way in, or we'll get an email that gets rejected because it's got a fraudulent link on it, or it's just never ending.
See, that's great. And I imagine you in the exec meeting just dropping that stat in. People are like, what?
Yeah, and then they go back to talk about something else.
Back to food costs.
Yeah, I think they zone me out now.
And we're doing a brunch actually in a few weeks about operational efficiency. And we talked about this at the start actually, and how tech is should be helping the operators do their jobs better, quicker, faster. Do you feel like you're achieving that through what you've done in your group?
I think we're better at it. I think we could do more, and I think we need to do more. I think that a lot of the times when I go and I look at what people are doing on site, sometimes I think we should be doing better than this. Some of the things we're asking them to do, and I mean, people that work in an industry as hospitality, you want them on the floor, right? You want to talk to guests, you want to talk to staff, making sure everything's going well. And then they're in the office for 2 hours. That's the bit that I think we can do much better on. And I think that's widespread.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that's an industry thing.
Yeah.
The evil office.
The office, yeah. And they're never nice offices, are they?
No, I've never understood. I mean, I always found it weird. I mean, Colucci started building smaller and smaller offices as we grew. So I think Simon was making a point to us. And every time we opened a laptop, he'd be near us going, what are you doing? Get in front of a customer.
Yeah.
So, and I think there is a time for it. But I do think with all the power at our fingertips, potentially, there is, great products like, Tenzo BI products that can help you drag all that area manager type data into one place.
Absolutely.
Are really useful. What is if you could pinpoint one or two things that I suppose is slowing you down in terms of operational efficiencies that you could fix with tech, what would they be?
Well, I think the hardest bit is we're so busy all the time, right? So the restaurants are so busy, like you said earlier, landing things. We've got all the good ideas. It's how do you budget for those and then get them into a project plan that we can make work.
Because I suppose you're super keen to do something, I'm sure, but
all the time, yeah. I think that's half the battle with IT teams, right? We've always got a project we want to do, but it's actually doing it, and obviously, like, we have to be conscious of budgets and what we're doing as well in other areas, and we need to make sure that we're not doing too much.
Yeah,
because I think that's when you then struggle to land things.
Yeah, I imagine. And it's that knee jerk, isn't it, that you found something, you can fix it, but it just can't be done today type thing.
Yeah, and then that's when it's not successful. So we've got a great idea, but actually we don't include the teams enough. They don't have time to train. So we need to be better at that. And I think that there's like I said, there's loads of great products out there now.
And in terms of, we'll kind of end near here, but in terms of procuring tech, so if you're looking at buying something, you talked about kicking the tires before and testing. How much time and thought are you putting in ahead of let's talk a guest experience platform, for instance? How long would that process look like, or is it very bespoke depending on what you're doing?
Yeah, depending on what we're doing. I mean, I think that the good thing is about technology now is that most people understand it and they know what's out there and they've seen something. Or again, we're a very incestuous industry, right? So everyone knows everyone. Someone's done something well, they'll come to me and say, I've got a friend that works here and they've got this. And so you're pretty aware of everything that's out there.
Is that still very common? Because I did a survey ages ago and I think 82% of people said they would buy based on recommendations.
100%, yeah. I think that is still, and I think that will always be like that in hospitality because you often find people just move from one to the other, right? And then, when I was here, we used to do this, and when I was there, we used to do that. And again, like none of us are really reinventing the wheel. We want to be innovative, we want to do things differently. But actually, if someone's got a good product that helps you with cash ups or BI, or actually, let's look at it, and then you start that process. And we would then, I mean, we always want to talk to a few different vendors, and we then look at, is it off the shelf versus something that's a bit more bespoke? And we'll do that whole work and bring the teams in for that. And then I call it the beauty parade, right? Show us what you can do and how you do it, and you flaunt yourself in front of us, and let's see what happens.
And then we'll send you on your way.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Steve from when Steve was at Marugame, Steve Phillips was the ops director. He said when they built that, they didn't want to be trailblazers. They want to be fast followers, in the way he put it. And exactly that. He said like, we just wanted to see what others are doing and kind of stand on top of that and go, look, okay, we trust them. We know they're good people. They're good operators. Let's just do, let's not copy them, but let's see where we can go on that journey.
I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
It's from a timing perspective. Yeah, I mean, it saves you a load of time.
Yeah.
And as well, I think what we're great at as an industry is sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
I think we all talk to each other.
Doing now, right?
Yeah, exactly. We all talk to each other. You know, someone that uses it, I can call up their IT director or their ops director and say, oh, how's it going? What do you think? And that's where we're really good. And I think that's where it must be hard for vendors, because one bad experience becomes 100 bad experiences across the industry.
I mean, and that's like complaints in a restaurant, right? Yeah. So if you had someone has a bad time, and I used to manage 48 sites, and there'd be that one, they have that one problem there, but it would just spread like wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you've got a problem site from 2 days ago was quite good.
Yeah.
And it is that fast. And I mean, as we said before, the guys on the floor will remove you if need be.
Yes, for sure.
They're a tough bunch. And finally, on customer experience, because I think that's what you've said a few times actually, that we're people centric. That's what we do in hospitality. How much is tech supporting, I suppose, the experience of our customers? And I know you mentioned there you take UX into consideration when you're building anything. Is it really helping you drive, I suppose, the next part of the growth of the collection?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, we've got some great people, we've got some good opinions, but they're just our opinions, right? And we can have 5 people around the table and we'll all have different opinions, but really however many 5 million covers we do a year,
that's a lot.
They're the people that we need to be asking what the experience is like, where we fell down, how we can be better. And like I said, we did a big project on that, and we looked at the whole journey, not just when you get to the restaurant. Obviously that's super important, but actually starts a decision-making process. Well, I went on your website and I didn't really understand what the brand was, what the food was going to be like. I couldn't book a table, blah, 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 blah. And then you get to, okay, but I finally did make decisions to come. And so I was already a little bit annoyed because I had a terrible booking journey.
So you've already lost
We didn't give the restaurant a chance, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we need to be better. Or I've had a great experience, I want to tell you about it. How do I give you great feedback? And we sort of looked at that whole journey, and how do we respond to feedback? How do we engage with customers that have had a bad time? And we put a platform in to manage that. So it really was looking at the end-to-end journey and how we can make that better. We looked at our call centre. So obviously we want everyone to book online, but some people like to phone us.
Yeah.
How do we make that experience better? Yeah, mine too, yeah. And that's... You can't just take everything in isolation.
You can't alienate them as well, right? We all love tech and it's fantastic, but there is a generation that aren't using it or don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to do the app, we knew we weren't going to hit all of our customers, but actually we've got an engaged customer base that we want to reward for being loyal.
Yeah.
And we knew that they wanted an app because we surveyed them.
Because we asked them.
Yeah, we
asked
them. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what do you think about the future, I suppose? Like, we mentioned AI briefly back then. I mean, it's playing a part in everyone's day-to-day roles, I think, slowly. What do you think the next... Is there anything, do you think, exciting that's going to come into the industry and revolutionise everything? As you said, we're not really redoing anything. I mean, hospitality makes me laugh. It's evergreen, right?
Yeah.
All our problems. I mean, we've got the same problems now that I had 15 years ago. It's just... but maybe they're a little bit better. I don't know. But what do you think is coming?
I mean, for me, I think that AI, is is down the line.
Yeah.
And it's all great. And like I say, there's bits and pieces coming into
Bits
data.
in marketing,
It's not going to revolutionise anything we're doing currently. I think for me, and we're talking about helping the operations team, I think that there's a lot of stuff that you could be doing with automation that no one's taken advantage of. And there's free tools out there that you can use.
Yeah.
That's taking that day-to-day grind of repetitive tasks that we have to do for business purposes, but can just be automated and making people's lives easier. And we've done a bit of work on that, and we'll continue to do that because there is some great stuff out there on that sort of process automation.
In some sites, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carluccio's was, I hate to harp on, but they're interested because they're an all-day business. And we used to have to go in at 7 and complete we were the best, like an hour and a half, we had to complete everything, checks, fridge check, all that compliance stuff you're discussing. And it made you really good as an operator, but we wasted so much time on it as well, because actually the reality was when we opened at 8, we were still doing those things till 10. Yeah. So the customer was basically, sit over there, we'll be with you in a minute type thing. And I wonder across the industry, that kind of stuff you're talking about, how much we're losing in terms of finance, people. Pick one. I mean, it must be an absolute car crash.
And I think that's where we say like retention's a big topic for everybody, right? I mean, we need to make this industry an exciting place to work. And I think we can use tech to do that, and that will be a massive benefit to everybody. And I think that's where we should be focusing in terms of if we can. I mean, I almost feel like we're going to skip a generation in hospitality because people are not don't want to go into it anymore. Yeah, I think it's sad because I've been here 20 years and I've had an amazing time. I've met some amazing people.
I mean, genuinely, I don't get it. I'm not forcing my son into it, but he's working part time at the pumpkin patch, so he's doing that. He's doing some bits and bobs, and he said, I said, you make relationships 20 times quicker than you would in an office. Yeah. Like within a day, you know this person next to you so well because you've been in the crowd.
I mean, all my best friends now are people that I worked with in a restaurant 25 years ago.
Especially in hotels where you've been, because hotels are just like, it's like you're locked in a different world. Yeah. It's very odd.
Yeah, if you don't make friends and family there, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're not normal. Yeah, because but it's really interesting. Look, I really appreciate you spending half an hour with us because
it's been a pleasure.
Because we'd love to get you guys on because obviously the tech community want to hear from you. But also, I think some of the growing brands, the mid-market guys, it's really interesting to hear what you've got to say. So thank you very much for that. If people do want to contact you,
LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah,
do not email him. Yeah, but LinkedIn. Thanks very much, John. What are you up to tonight? Are you trick or treating?
I'm not trick-or-treating tonight. I'll be going back to work after this and finishing up my day.
Yeah, so
and then avoiding
like
trick-or-treaters. Yeah.
No, I've got a job, Chris.
Yeah. I might do one of the turning the lights off and sitting in the dark tonight.
Well, enjoy that. That sounds weird, but have fun. All right, lovely to meet you. Thank you very much. Cheers.